is James. I run the YouTube channel OnceinaSixSide. It's all about 3D printing and tabletop miniatures.
What you do with the 3D printing, what the main stuff you're doing with the 3D printing things?
Yeah, my primary motivation for 3D printing is to reproduce tabletop miniatures for tabletop wargames and RPGs and that kind of thing.
Miniatures,
yeah, correct.
I saw a lot of things have been placed here, and it's really lovely stuff, and that I like to show to the people later on.
Ooh, okay, the biggest motivation for me to create the channel, I think at the time, was the Resin 3D printing was very much in its infancy in terms of a consumer product. And there was a lot of conflicting information out there, or not enough information about how files should be prepared for 3D printing. A big pain point at the time was that a lot of, and still is today somewhat, but a lot of creators will sell their files as, like pre-supported. Yeah, that's true. And the problem was, and still is a little bit, is that a lot of people don't know how to properly support a miniature to have a successful 3D print, especially when you are dealing with potentially large user base and everyone has different printers, different resins, different settings, different ideas about how they should tune their settings and these kind of things. And so I just wanted to basically be a voice that could just poke and prod at people and be like, hey, do a better job. There's one really popular miniatures company, you guys probably know of them, they're called Games Workshop. If you live in Australia or New Zealand, it's interesting, you pay the highest prices for Games Workshop products than anywhere in the world. And that is frustrating as a fan. I think it creates a lot of resentment in the community here in Australia and New Zealand. It's almost a meme at this point how much we pay for for our Warhammer. And so I think a lot, at least for me anyway, a big motivator to get into 3D printing was okay, well, for one, the technology is really cool, and that appeals to me because I'm like a gearhead, a tech head. I love that stuff. But a big motivator was it looks like on paper this is going to be really cheap compared to the traditional means of producing miniatures.
That is pretty much a solid reason for the people that are started with using with the 3D printers, because they can create something that they like but doesn't need to pay the stupid money.
I think that's a good reason to get into it. I know some people disagree with that, but I think what's cool is once you do get into it, there's actually a lot more that opens up around it. For example, there's a lot of different talent who are creative digital artists making really cool sculptures and miniatures, and you can now, rather than just have to say you're really into Warhammer 40k and you want to have some specific faction, you want to build an army, you want to have your models, your tanks, your soldiers and everything. You traditionally would do that with just the one line of miniatures, but now you have a whole marketplace and all these options and all these different artists through which you can express that love of that faction in endless different ways now, which is just a really cool. That for me was something I wasn't expecting when I got into 3D printing, and just blew my mind, and now it's my favorite thing about it. I think everyone knows about Creality, right? You start looking up 3D printing, you get an interest in the hobby. No, not then. Well, that's been what's so interesting over the last few years is how 3D printing is just has just become so affordable and ubiquitous. First contact with Creality for me, it's funny actually. My friends all because I've just bought that 3D printer up there in the corner, that little white one, the Anycubic Photon S, and I was like, this is amazing, and I was printing heaps of stuff with that, and I wanted a FDM machine, but I couldn't really afford one. But all my friends sort of put money together for my birthday and surprised me with a Creality Ender 3 V2.
Oh, the V2, the Ender 3 V2,
And that was awesome. I learned a lot about FDM printing with that. I don't want to talk shit on it because it's a good printer, but I think it's well known that if you buy an Ender 3, I don't know what the current ones are like, but back then, the original Ender 3 and the V2 and everything, these are machines you kind of have to hack on a bit to get going and get working reliably, which is fine. And that was a fun experience. It took me ages to learn that you gotta just clean the bed well and then parts will stick better. think if we move in a direction where 3D printers get a lot more automated and easy to use, that's great. I just really don't want to see us move in the direction of like inkjet desktop printers. Like behind you there's a little Canon printer. And that thing is, you're probably familiar with these, right? They get so locked down where like they tell you, oh, you're running out of ink. Go buy our ink, and it's all like microchipped, so you can't use other inks. You got to use their exact one, and they can charge whatever they want for it. And then it's like it's so closed down, you can't meaningfully interact with it in any way beyond its intended purpose, which is like, I guess it's fine. That's like a good goal to have with a product. You want your end users to be able to buy it and then just have it work and it be a good time for them. But I think there's a risk there for like anti-consumer stuff where it can quickly become, users can get sort of locked in this like ecosystem of like, you bought this machine, so you now have to then buy all the associated stuff with this machine, which it's an interesting conflict of an area, right? Because like for companies like Creality or whatever, I guess that's like the dream, right? Like the customer buys our machine and then buys our filament or our resin and never touches the other brands or whatever. But I think about it from the approach of like, if I buy one of these, I want to be able to use like any resin I want with it, you know, or like a filament machine. I want to be able to use any filament I want with it. So yeah, I think it's awesome that like machines are improving. Like we have this automatic bed leveling and automatic tuning, like PIDs, I think is one of them, and then the other thing I can't remember. What do they call it? Pressure advance, linear advance, or something. But it doesn't matter. But I think it's awesome that we have these things. I just worry that like, where do we end up if we keep going down this road of like?
Yeah. So the technology itself is good for you.
Okay, well the first thing actually, if Creality really wants to stand out in the 3D printer ecosystem of brands and offerings, don't forget about last year's model or the year before. You know, keep updating them. If you've got a printer that's 4 years old and one of the engineers comes up to you and says, hey, that Hallett Mage V1 or whatever from 3 years ago, and I was hacking around on it on the weekend and I gave it this cool new feature, can we roll that out into the firmware? Like, yeah, oh yeah, let's do it. Like, keep those. Keep your
the elder models alive. Don't end their lives.
Today, even as well, I mean, like bigger printers like this, and again, depending on the files and how much work it's going to be, I think it can make sense to print terrain as well, like big gaming pieces. It's less economical, obviously, because resin costs more. But I mean, if at the same time, it's not crazy to do. But generally, the advice has been print your miniatures in resin, print your terrain in FDM, and I think for the most part that still holds true today. Just keep doing what you're doing. And
keep doing what we're doing, yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested to see where the filament stuff's going. Yeah, the K1 sounds really interesting. I'm more interested in this just because I'm more interested in resin 3D printing for miniatures, because that's sort of more what my channel's about. Yeah, I'm happy that you guys are here, and I've been able to say in person to someone, give us exposure range finding function. That I think if you guys can do that.
Right, I think this is really a good suggestion. And yeah.
Oh, and keep doing this. This is amazing. This door, yeah, that's great.
Why is that?
Because the other thing, you got to find somewhere to put it down, and then like you can see, it's already really cramped in here. I'm limited for space, so when I've got like one of these and then a washing cure, I've got like suddenly the footprint is double.
You have the washing cure box over there.
Yeah. Oh, give us one of those with this too. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, so you don't have to place it somewhere else. Yeah.
Like this design is so good. I love this. Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I think that will be all.
Yeah,
no worries. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.